Here I have given a technique. Unless you practice it, you will not understand it. But you will understand it theoretically, but it has to be practiced to live it. I am saying any cause, any wrong thing or which you do not like, the treatment is necessary. We have to go to the causal level for the treatment. As much you can go to the deepest causal level, so much efficient will be the treatment. For example, we now blame the present generation that they are like this. We were not like this. In our time, we were not like this. It is true. But who is responsible for the present generation? So, if you look into the cause, we have given birth to the next generation. Now, maybe when you look it from outside, we were not so restless, we were not given to so much of indulgence, material indulgence. All that is true. But the fact remains that the world is changing. The kind of attraction, repulsion we had in our time, the next generation is having a tremendous, at least 100 times more. We did not have even mobiles at that time. We had only two cars running in our country, two kinds of cars. We did not have scooty footy and all those things. Nothing was available. We were walking to the school or going by the school bus. So, although we were better in behavior apparently, but we have not made our children able to sustain or withstand the greater impacts they would have in their generation. That is, we have not approached them through the knowledge which would have made them, even in this condition, also sustainable. That they would not have been lost their self-seatedness under the operation of these pushes and pulls of the present modern world. Do you appreciate that? So this is a general technique that wherever the treatment is now, in this case particularly the generation, you cannot go back to our generation or the previous generation and apply the treatment. You cannot. But certainly we can start thinking in that manner and try to incorporate and tell the next generation that this is what has happened. Now it is going to degenerate further. Would you like to get degenerated further and giving rise to another generation which will be further degenerated? Or would you like to check it now? And we also would like to check for that whatever pursuit we have to do, we must be ready to do it also. We have not grown old to that extent beyond 70 or so. We can still change. Even after 70, 80 also, they can become an instrument for change. Our Swamiji is 84 years old. He's still trying the world over to bring in the change. So there is no limit to that. Now, as a general case also, suppose one common thing we feel we have that most of the people, they want to become good, but they are not able to become good. Is it not so? Some might be there that they don't. That means they are so much slavery they have to the objective indulgences, they cannot. But by and large, people want to become good, but they are not able to. Suppose we often have hurting behavior, hurting others, but we don't want to hurt, particularly our own loved people. We don't want to hurt. But every time we come out with such a hurting behavior, we think that why did I do it? Again, I have done this wrong. Now, here I am identifying the inability to our wrong way. Again, I am approaching through wisdom. That you are thinking of the wrong behavior only when the behavior has displayed itself, when it has come out. But the behavior is not any behavior a result of our thought. Without the thoughts, no behavior will come. So, all our external behavior, the cause for that is in our mind, in our thoughts. Is it not so? So, if I am hurting people, there must be some hurting thoughts in us. May not be in the same manner as we have finally expressed, but it must be in some rudimentary manner that hurting nature is there. It could be my selfishness, my ego, whatever it is. But there is a cause behind my wrong behavior. So unless we correct in that causal level, the behavior is never going to be corrected. You may control a little, suppress a little, but it will not have a full correction at all. So naturally, our whole outlook then changes from external behavior, watching the external behavior, to watching our thoughts. Now, you will not be easily able to watch your thoughts. It's a great spiritual practice. First of all, to look within and see how my mind is working, how the thoughts are there. So it will involve your pursuit of watching the thoughts and see what kind of thoughts I am constantly coming here. There also you will find that you will find various, we have never seen our mind. When you look into the mind, you will find so much filthy thoughts, wrong thoughts they are generated there, as well as very good thoughts also. Both are there, constantly generated. And how to check them? If you try to check them just on the thoughts, if you try to operate, you cannot. You will find that you are failing. Then you have to go further. What is the cause of the thoughts? We call it bhava or mindset. That is, your mind is constituting of certain qualities, some virtues and qualities. So that mindset has to be treated. That mindset is something like this. Suppose you have an iron ball. If you heat it to some extent, it becomes red. Now from the red ball, only red radiations will come out. Red light will come out. If you want blue light to be emitted, you have to heat the ball to a higher temperature so that the blue light comes out of it. Or you have to change the constituent molecules of the ball. So unless wherefrom the thoughts are radiated by the mind, we call it the mindset or the bhava, the content of the mind. So unless that is treated, we will not be able to control the thoughts. By control, nothing will happen. The thoughts will emerge and we will behave also accordingly. So if we really want a change in our behavior, in our interactions, we have to treat our mindset. Let us know very well. Without that, there is no way. That is the causal level where we have to treat. We always give the example that suppose you want to change the flow of the Ganges, direction of the Ganges. Will you try from the Ganga Sagar to push the water back and change the flow? Or in the Gomukha, where it's a trickle of water coming down through a stone, you plug it and change another, open it somewhere else, the Ganges will flow in another direction. It will completely change the course. So we have to go to the source level to change. And that is what our mind is. Now, how can you change your mindset? I have already discussed. Give good thoughts, noble thoughts, because the mind has been constantly interacting with a fragmented world, selfishness, blaming tendencies, complaining tendencies, or indulging tendencies. If we give the mind good thoughts, liberal thoughts, embracing thoughts, universal thoughts, automatically the mindset will change and that will radiate such noble thoughts. Correspondingly, the behavior we don't have to control. Automatically, the behavior will be good, will be noble. Do you understand this point? This is extremely important. I would call it technology of the mind. That how to have it will lead you to such an integrated personality. Normally, you will find always there is a friction going on in our, not one, hundreds of frictions are going on in our personality. What the intelligence says, the mind is refusing to accept. Where the mind wants, the senses are refusing to take, it is wanting another way. There are also so many factions are there. By this, what will happen? It will be a complete integrated personality. Wherever lies the goodness or the auspiciousness, according to that, the intelligence will guide the mind. And following that, the mind will guide our body, the senses and all. It will be a complete integrated personality. In Kathopanishad, we have a very good example. See, they have illustrated the senses with 5 horses. They are representing the senses. The rein is the mind. The Sarathi or charioteer is the intelligence. And our own personality, the soul we call, that is the innermost personality. That is the master of the chariot. That is the I we are talking about. Everybody has that I who is seeing the body, seeing the mind, seeing everything. It's the seer of everything. Now, where will the chariot go? According to the master of the chariot, it should go. Suppose you wanted to come to CIRD, it is you who is deciding and asking the taxiwala or autowala or the driver to take me there. Then the driver has to run the vehicle in the manner that it reaches here. So the intelligence, the Sarathi, always have to look to the innermost, our inner voice, you can say. Why am I saying inner voice? It is common to all. Have you seen a person who does not like love? We always want to be loved by others. That is our foolishness. Because if we radiate love, then we don't have to look for anybody's loving us. Do you get my point? We want others to love me. It is only small fragmented love. But suppose we start radiating love, then it becomes independent of others. Whether others love you or not, you love and you will get the same love, same joy out of the love. Much more. than the others loves. So everybody has a feeling of compassion, or people would like to have that universality. If a person is left alone, he would not like that life. They want to work together, but while working together they have problem because of the selfishness and greed. They start fighting. But otherwise, any job done in a group, when you work in a group with the same aim, you get so much of extra energy and inspiration. It is because by our very nature we want to be together. We have an universalness. That is the inner voice. Suppose you take a promotion in a wrong manner. There are various kinds of wrong manner. Well, you may get more money, you may get more position, you may get more fame, but certainly deep inside you something will tell you that you have done it in a wrong manner. Is it not so? We are not heeding it only because of our greed for the external benefits we are getting. Suppose if we heed it, then we have to win over our slavery to the external benefits. But you cannot say that I don't have the inner voice. Everybody has. We know what we are doing. Even if you lie, there is something inside which is prompting that you are telling lies. You are telling lies. That is the soul. That is the innermost personality, which knows where lies the auspicious goal of our life. So the charioteer, the intelligence, must look for that auspicious inner voice, where lies the ultimate auspicious goal. And accordingly, he has to drive the horses to take us there. The chariot should go there. Now, why the rain is compared with the mind? Because the intelligence cannot directly operate on the senses. The senses have to be assisted by the mind. So, whatever the intelligence thinks, to transfer that order to the senses, it has to take the help of the mind. And if the mind is weak, if the mind is not properly cultured or disciplined, then it will not transfer the word of that is what always happens. The intelligence is saying don't do, but we end up doing, because the mind yields to the senses. Whatever the senses want, accordingly the mind follows that, disobeying the intelligence. That is why we are doing wrong things. But suppose the reins are also made taut and proper, strong. That is how the mind has to be made strong with the proper mind disciplines, so that it can straight away follow the intelligence's order. Horses have to be trained, the sense organs have to be trained to remain disciplined, not to do anything which is not called for, unrighteous anything. That is the first treatment. The mind has to be trained with the mind disciplines, so that it can follow the order of the intelligence and carry it to the horses. The intelligence has to be made powerful, subtle, and incisive to know what is the inner voice and how to follow that. That is, get over the ruling of the objective situation, slavery of the objective situation. Only then it can listen to the inner voice. So with that, I call it the integrated personality. This is just, I have given our, I don't know where it is, might be in Mahabharata or maybe just Subhashitam. The shloka, the second line of the shloka is Atmanah Pratikulani Pareshamna Samachara. This is such a beautiful quote. It is there in other cultures also. You will have, that is, whatever you don't like to be done to you, do not do to others. The reverse is also true. Whatever you like to be done to you, do to others that. Both way. So just a simple half a verse, if you analyze it, you will find all the codes of conduct can come. All the dharma instructions will be there from this. You can tell your children also that if you don't like your pen to be thieved, to be taken away by others without telling you, then should you take the other's pen without telling them? When they are committed these things, we can tell them. Everywhere it is so. You like people to love you. So should you not love others before you expect love from them? You like other people to be disciplined so that your work can be done properly. So naturally you have to be disciplined so that the others' work also will be done properly. Everywhere, every field. This is such a great, it's like a capsule. You can extend it to any level, anywhere. It's such a powerful code.